My question is, should care homes place their fire risk assessments on a public register?
I would support much more transparency about fire risk assessments and fire precaution in buildings across the board, and I think that would be a very good thing to do. However, I think there are a couple of things that need to be addressed probably before we do that, and I'd like to refer back to the scrutiny committee the Assembly held last year in relation to tall and timber frame buildings. And one of the particular recommendations from that scrutiny committee was about the need for fire risk assessors to be properly accredited, and I think that was a very, very important step in terms of ensuring fire safety in buildings for the future. The difficulty at the moment that fire risk assessments that were to be published online, we cannot immediately verify the correctness of those risk assessments, the competence of the people that actually undertook them, because that accreditation is not in place. As far as LFEPA is concerned, we are very open about our work in terms of fire risk assessments, and we actually now publish all enforcement action on our website, so it's available to the public to see what enforcement action is taking place within buildings within London. So we certainly do support openness and transparency in relation to fire precautions. The other thing, of course, is that the understanding of the public and the way in which those fire risk assessments, once published, would be used, because there is still a perception amongst many members of the public that actually the Fire and Rescue Service role is to audit every fire risk assessment that takes place at every building. And as we explained at the Scrutiny Committee last year, that's not actually the way the new legislation is actually drafted. So seeing a fire risk assessment on a website somewhere may encourage people to think that building is properly safe and all the right precautions have been taken. The truth is, it may have changed in the meantime, because there's also no requirement to review those on an annual or a periodic basis. They have to be reviewed when something material changes within the building. So I completely support the idea of having the risk assessments published online, but I think there are some other things that need to be put in place before, if that's to be properly effective.
I can see that, and I accept that the training is absolutely fundamental to it all, because a fire risk assessment could be actually wrong.
Yes.
But having said that, in July it was found that 29 care homes weren't up to the basic standard, and these are some of the most vulnerable people in society, and so it does seem, I mean, they're not the only people, obviously there's student accommodation, there's private tenancies and so on. It just seems that having a public register like that would just be a step forward in the right direction, that's all. I'm sure
it would be a step in the right direction. I think the other difficulty around this is in terms of the definition of care homes and rest homes and the different definitions there are between them, unfortunately. If you're a properly registered rest home, then you need to be accredited by the Care Health Commission, and therefore everyone's aware of those. But people do set up these sorts of things and call them care homes, etc., without actually being properly registered, because they're not fulfilling the criteria for that. So I think there is more work that needs to be done in relation to care homes and rest homes and shelter housing across the board, not just in London but outside as well, before we actually make some definite decisions about that. But certainly my view would be that putting risk assessments online would be a step in the right direction.
So would the fire service have any sort of part to play in assessing the care homes in terms of whether they're properly accredited or not, or is that?
Yes, in London we prioritise care homes and rest homes in terms of our audits of fire risk assessments and our inspections of buildings, so they're very high up our agenda. It's in a similar way to hospitals and places like that. But as I say, that not all of the care homes are actually knowable to us because they're not actually registered with local authorities. So some care homes, or things that could be called care homes, actually are established that are not part of the register held by local authorities of the health service. So we do prioritise those ones we know about, and where we get incidents or any information relating to other premises may be deemed in that sort of way, we do inspect those premises as well.
I mean, it certainly sounds as if it's a very big problem. Is it something the government needs to bring in some more legislation about, or is it something that could be dealt with on current legislation?
I think probably it could be dealt with by the majority of the current legislation which is already in place, but we are already in conversation with the government in relation to the issues around care health, care homes and rest homes, etc., to make sure we've actually got the right level of control over those, so that we're aware of where they are, so that we can carry out the right legislation. Once we know where they are, and I think the right controls are in place.
Thank you. Brian, just before I finish, you talked about the LIFE programme. It sounds absolutely fantastic. You asked for our support. Obviously, I'm sure we would all support it. Do you expect us to go on it? Or There must be an age limit, isn't there? I mean, I'll step forward and do it.
Well, I wouldn't dream to suggest, Madam Chair, that any members of the Assembly need a bit of discipline in their lives and some of the skills, but I would invite colleagues, if they're not attending to pass out Parade of Life schemes. These happen every so often across a range of 9 London boroughs to turn up for one. And people are happy to send you invitations, and then you can actually see the young people and see the families and see the reactions and see the satisfaction that officers get out of it from spending a week training and helping these young people.
Thank you.